Okay, so thanks for coming today to listen to me talk a little bit about my book, Professionalism Matters. For those of you who don't know, Professionalism Matters is a self-help guide for people in business, people that are wishing to set themselves apart, I guess, from other people in a very competitive market. So the book offers very practical ways of becoming a professional and being a professional that everybody admires and wants to do business with. So it's aimed at freelancers, graduates, people that are self-employed, or those that have client-facing roles. So over the course of 12 chapters, I talk about a range of issues that are very central to maintaining standards of practice, improving and achieving client satisfaction, and building a positive reputation for ourselves. Now, I've spent much of my academic career as a university lecturer researching, teaching, and writing on the subject of professionalism, but I used to write about it within the context of healthcare, an area where ethics is very kind of central to practice. So, from my own research, I knew that this was a really complex subject and lots of different facets to it. But it wasn't until I was trying to reinvent myself as a self-employed business trainer a few years ago that I began to appreciate just how difficult professionalism is to demonstrate. And I actually thought that my own credibility and proficiency as an educator would actually carry me through. The reality of that was I'd actually got no idea what mattered to clients. I didn't know what people would be expecting to me, what it took to kind of build trust and deliver an excellent service. And I felt like I was being a professional, but when you're not getting work, you begin to question actually what does it take to stand out. So, every day to me was a bit of a new challenge. There was no roadmap to professionalism, and I had to kind of navigate my own way round. And then it dawned on me that people were probably doing very much the same. And I felt if I could connect the dots, I could lead the way for other people. And so that's when I had this idea about writing a book as a way of expanding my own knowledge, but also as a way of gaining, insight, providing insight to other people. So as I was beginning to plan my book, I had to do a lot of reading around other books on professionalism. And they fell into three kind of categories, really. So there were the sociological kinds of political and philosophical perspectives about professionalism. There were those books that were aimed at school leavers, very much talking about etiquette, how to write an email, how to dress smart, etc. And then there were a group of books that were aimed at CEOs, which were kind of linking professionalism to power, prestige, and commercial success. But as an individual, as a self-employed individual, I actually didn't see myself in any of this. And so I thought, you know what, it was really important for me that if I was going to write a book, I wanted it to be a book that other people could relate to in terms of its narrative and in terms of its content. And if I wanted people to see themselves in the book, I needed it to be inclusive. And the only way to write a book that's inclusive is to, in fact, include other people. So what I decided to do was to approach others within business as a way of expanding what I know, but also being able to draw on their insight and wisdom, particularly from those that were aspiring to deliver a good quality service and potentially had a greater understanding of professionalism in context of a business world, because I'd only known professionalism within healthcare practice. So I needed to set about interviewing people from a range of sectors. And that meant thinking about people from different occupational sectors, people from different ages, ethnicity, levels of business experience. because if I could tap into their insight, that enabled me to offer real life practical examples and illustrate some of the points that I wanted to bring to life. So over the course of 16 months, I interviewed 60 people in business, many of them local to us here in Gloucestershire. But also, because I was developing my ideas over lockdown, of course, we were all able to hop on Zoom and network on a national level. So it meant that, that brought me into contact with a much more diverse group of people. So I set about finding people that were kind of willing to share their ideas. And then what I did was kind of collate that insight, their offers of best practice. I'd previously been a researcher within healthcare, so I was very much trying to ensure that I operated and functioned under those ethical guidelines of standards. So that meant, ensuring and guaranteeing confidentiality. It meant that people had a right to see what was being written about them. They'd got the right to change. They'd even got the right to kind of withdraw their ideas from the book should they wish. People also had the right to choose the name they wanted to use, how they wanted to label themselves in terms of their profession, and indeed what pronoun they wished as well. So it was a kind of a major project, really. To get the diversity, I needed to interview a large number of people. But their involvement didn't end there, because I engaged people in the quality assurance process. If you're writing a book on professionalism, it's got to be professional. And so therefore, I also wanted it to be something that people would engage with, would want to read, and would want to find value. And so people that were in the book read the chapters they were in, and I also asked them to read another chapter. And they had a form to fill in, so they could give me feedback as to whether or not, they liked my ideas, whether or not it was well written, whether they approved of what was being said in relation, to the context of the interviews I'd had with them. And that enabled me to kind of, change and revise bits as I went along. I'd written 12 chapters. Each chapter's about 10,000 words, so it's a meaty, book here. I never really intended it to be that long, but people had got so much to say, and so many things emerged from that. But I had 7 people reading the entire book. So, I'm so grateful to them, because I wanted them to see how the whole thing kind of came together, really, what it looked like, what it looked and felt like, before it was published. I wanted to be sure I'd offered some people, I was offering a book, really, I guess, that people wanted to read. And I think, that's was about 6 or 7 months, it took for that process. So it did slow down, I guess, the actual publication, but I think it was worth it, because actually, I've got 9 5-star reviews recently that I've received from readers. So I think, that going through that process, that iterative process with other people worked. But one of the 3 things that I hadn't appreciated about getting people involved in my book was, firstly, there was a lot of willingness and enthusiasm to actually get involved. And I was quite amazed that people had a lot of self-belief in me, because, some people didn't particularly know me too well. They were giving me their time, not necessarily knowing whether or not this was ever going to be published. So, I was very grateful that people, had that belief, and saw this as, as an important piece of work, and wanted to contribute. The other thing was, people that were interviewed said how cathartic an experience it had actually been, having
You have one
had,
minute, Cheryl.
thank you, I've nearly done, having had the interviews with me, people felt, I wasn't asking easy questions. I was really, probing quite deeply. And I think people got back to me and said, they'd gone away, they'd reflected a lot more, they'd been inspired to do better. But the other thing about the book was it's created a community around the book, and I hadn't appreciated that. People wanted to meet other people that were in the book, and so people were wanting me to connect them with people that were in the book, which seemed fantastic. And when I had when I had my book launch, I was really worried that it was, people weren't going to talk to each other. It was, going to be kind of die on its feet. And in actual fact, it was the opposite. It was a really, there was a really good buzz, and a good atmosphere, because people were just dying to meet other people, within the book, because they'd been inspired by what they'd said, and the things that they'd contributed. So I hope that's given you a little bit of insight as to kind of the background, how it materialized. The book is available on Amazon. You can buy it from me, and it's got 12 chapters, and we've got chapters on oh gosh, professional identity, values, attitudes, reliability, consistency, honesty, transparency, critical thinking and decision making, passion and purpose, professional excellence, and professional development. So all those words that you said, running through it as well, accountability and things like that. So it's all in there, available for you to read and digest.